Hey everybody, it's Renzo here with another Tekken update. I'm a little late on this one if you'll excuse me. Man's gotta work, man's gotta eat kind of thing. This came out early this morning. Why is it they do this? They always release this Tekken information early in the morning so that I can't get on here and post anything. I think the first thing I was able to scoop in the morning was when they made the announcement about how there would be an announcement for a release date next month back at that tournament. Anyway, let's not ramble. So basically, Namco came out and announced the Tekken 7 post-launch DLC plan. So what this basically means is, my dog's upset about something. If you are going to get the season pass, it's basically everything that's going to be in it. Of course, you can purchase these items separately, but it also gives you a little bit of an idea about what you're getting. So I do applaud them for that, for announcing what exactly these things contain. So let's jump right into that. I'm doing a new thing today where I have my face down here talking at you for some reason, my head anyway. And this is just using an uh, internal camera, so nothing too fancy. Excuse me for that. But anyway, if you look over here, you'll see the what they've got. So they said the first thing you're going to get coming in summer of 2017. The game comes out in June, so I would assume this DLC would hit somewhere close to that, maybe at the end of the month or at least by July. One would hope that they wouldn't push this to like late July or August. But you're going to receive a new game mode and costumes. As far as what those are, I don't think anybody's saying yet. Costumes are self-explanatory. New game mode, if I had to guess, this is going to be some sort of Tekken Force, Tekken Ball, something like that we've seen before that's not necessarily new. Just because with all the work that they're putting into story mode, I feel like the Tekken Force or Scenario Campaign or Beat 'em Up, whatever you want to call it, type mode, is probably getting relegated to low on the priority list. Right now, the Tekken dev team is more focused on getting that cinematic story mode out, especially if it's going to have branching paths and those kind of things like they're talking about. Everything I hear says it's going to be very similar to Mortal Kombat 10, except you're going to be able to pick like a different version of the story to play or something like that. The next thing you get, it says guest character number 1. That's not coming till winter. So that will be not even fall, but winter. So kind of end of the year, November, December, somewhere in that time frame, if I had to guess. Which is a weird time for DLC considering you're competing with Christmas sales and all of that for new games, but whatever. First guest character. And then in spring of 2018, so that's like March or April or whatever of next year, guest character number 2. Now, they were very intentional with their language here. Namco has confirmed that those two are guest characters, as in they are not Tekken characters. They're guest characters. Kind of like Akuma is. They're going to be a Street Fighter character or a Dead or Alive character or Homer Simpson or something that is going to be in Tekken that is not a Tekken character. And then, of course, you get free character panels for all. So I assume that just means all the characters are getting free character panels. I don't necessarily know if they mean that just everybody gets that or if getting the DLC season pass gets you free character panels for everybody. Because it has to be for everybody. Or I just think it has to be because it's not really free if you're paying for it via the season pass. It's not like, you buy this, you get free character panels. No, in essence, you're buying the character panels is really what you're doing. But anyway, this is it. Take a look behind you. This is the season pass and the Tekken 7 DLC plan. Looks very similar to what Mortal Kombat did, if you ask me. But anyway, that's pretty much the fact part of the video. Here comes the baseless conjecture part, in my opinion. So if you don't want to see that, just turn it off. Okay, so the game mode and the costumes, new costumes are kind of a given in fighting games for DLC. You're going to see new costumes in anything. That's nothing special. It doesn't change the game. Don't have a problem with that. They could sell $1 million costume if they wanted to, and I would not care because costumes usually do not affect the gameplay at all of fighting games. So who cares? Sell the costumes for those that want it. Don't care in the least. The game mode, it's going to be really disappointing if it is Tekken Force or something like that that you feel almost should have been in the game to begin with. But Tekken has always given you a good secondary mode since Tekken 3. There's always been Tekken Force or Devil Within or Scenario Campaign or something in there for you to do that's not necessarily just a one-on-one fighting. So the story mode this time is kind of weird because it is a one-on-one fighting mode. It just has cinematics and story, and you'll probably unlock fight money and other things in it if I had to guess. It's if you really really like Tekken Force, you might be kind of disappointed that you're getting just this story mode that's going to be the similar thing or whatever. But I think it's fine. It's a little disappointing that you won't get a beat 'em up mode like Tekken Force, but if the story mode to begin with is as good as they're claiming it's going to be, I think it's a worthy trade-off to just have this other game mode as a DLC that you can buy or get a season pass for, something like that. Harada says it helps, it pays them to work on the game and keep the staff on and all that, so that's good. Don't really care about that. What is disappointing to me about this season pass are the winter 2017 and spring 2008 offerings, in that they are guest characters. There's a lot of debate online, a lot of heartbroken, a lot of tears, a lot of celebration, a lot of mixed emotions is what I'm trying to say about guest characters in fighting games. I just don't like them. Don't care for them. Smash Brothers, I'm okay with it because that's sort of like a mixed party bag fighting game anyway, where just all these different universes and characters clash. But for hardcore, serious fighting games like Tekken or Street Fighter, just not a big fan of the guest character thing. It's probably going to be something from Street Fighter. I just do not think that we're not going to see another Street Fighter character, because there was some development on Tekken versus Street Fighter that, as many people know, went on, and that kind of got shelved so that they wouldn't saturate the fighting game market, essentially. They didn't want all their games competing against each other, so they shelved Tekken times Street Fighter. But if I had to guess, that got far enough along that they had some 3D models and some working prototypes of characters sitting around, so it would make a lot of fiscal sense and economical sense for them to just take one of those characters, polish them up, finish them up, and release them as a DLC. I'm not saying that's what they did. I don't have any proof of that at all, but it makes a lot of sense. Think about it. It does. You've already got these resources. You aren't going to release them for who knows how long. Why not recoup some of that lost time by polishing one up and releasing it as DLC? It just makes sense. Back to guest characters. I don't like guest characters in fighting games like this. The reason being, they don't really add anything to the series as a whole. We've really kind of gotten past the age of fighting games as one and dones. Like in the 90s, because of what Street Fighter 2 did for the industry and how that all worked out, you saw a lot of companies like the guys that made Dragon Master, for instance, or the guys that made Duraku Tenchi, coming together, popping out one fighting game, maybe two, and then that was it. They were either done with fighters or they never did it again. But nowadays, all the big players out there in the fighting games, they're all series. Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, King of Fighters, all these guys are series, right? And they continue. But guest characters, with very rare exception, I don't even know of it ever happening, guest characters are one and done. So for example, Kratos in MK9. Say MK9 was your first Mortal Kombat game. I'm sure for a lot of people it was, because it modernized Mortal Kombat and it was a tournament-worthy fighter, unlike the PS2 games. That's your first game. You pick up Kratos. You're good with Kratos. He's never going to be in there again. So when MK10 rolls around, you could lose a customer. You could lose a member of the fighting game community if they don't want to learn a new character. Fortunately, MK10 I feel like is different enough from MK9 anyway that you have to relearn. But I mean, they just don't add anything to the series, right? Kratos is not mentioned in MK10. He won't be mentioned in MK11. It's just like he's a one and done. He was just there. He contributes nothing to the series. He's just kind of isolated. He's this weird oddity that exists solely to MK9. And unfortunately, in today's world, older fighting games, unless you're like Street Fighter 2 or something, they just go obscure. And they go, redundant. You don't play them anymore. Everybody moves on to the next thing. So that character and their play style and all that stuff is kind of lost. I don't know, and I'm also a big nostalgia guy. I love older stuff. So part of me can't help but feel you've only got this limited room on your roster. So when you put a guest character in, that's somebody else that isn't even making it in that you feel like should have been, if that makes sense. So, Tekken 7 still doesn't have a lot of classic characters that people feel like should be included. Anna Williams is missing. Armor King is missing. All these old characters that are established and have established fan bases, they're not in the game. But you're putting in, these guest characters that are going to be one and done characters that aren't going to really add anything to the overall story or development of the series. They're just kind of there. And they're kind of like a money grab or whatever almost, because it's kind of torn. But I feel like the majority of people would rather see either new characters or old favorites than they were guest characters. However, I think it's well known at this point that guest characters attract the casual audience a lot more than they do the hardcore audience, which is unfortunately what you have to sell to make these things profitable. So I guess that's why it keeps happening, especially after Mortal Kombat's success. To this day, I'm still not convinced that they had planned Combat Pack 2 from the beginning. I feel like that they were just so overwhelmed with how well Predator and Jason did in the first Combat Pack. They said, "Wow, we gotta capitalize on this. We still got a while before Injustice 2. This game's still hot. They're still doing tournaments. Let's get some guest characters in there, especially since Mortal Kombat's an ultra-violent game and we have access to all these Warner Brothers film characters. And, next thing you know, you've got frickin' Leatherface in the game that nobody wanted. I don't think I saw a single request for Leatherface. Alien, I'll give it to him. Alien, there was a lot of Alien requests online. Nobody wanted Leatherface, but they just kind of gave it to everybody. Nobody wanted that. And I can't help but feel one of these guest characters is probably going to be dictated by the licensing cost, at least from Namco's end, but we'll never see that. Licensing cost, and probably do they have a workable model and character that we started on with Tekken Time Street Fighter that we didn't finish, that we can just polish up and toss in this thing. I hope that's not the case. And I could be wrong. They may very well put Smoke from Mortal Kombat in here or something, and I'm just going to be all for it. But just not a fan of the guest character in fighting games. I don't think they add to a series. They don't really help it. They're not a long-term option. I'm disinclined to learn them because I know that when Tekken 7 passes away, and if there is a Tekken 8, you're not going to be able to use that guest character again. Learning a character in Tekken is a pretty big endeavor. I've been playing Lee Chalon since Tekken 2. That's like 20 years that I've been using this one character. And so it's just a big investment. I don't really want to learn a character that I know for a fact will not be back in the game ever again. Even Akuma, they kind of bucked tradition and made him relevant to the story, but I think we all know that he won't be back. He probably will not return for Tekken 8 or Tekken 9 or however far they should go. There's going to be Tekken X one day. There's got to be Tekken 10, Tekken X. But anyway, that's what you got. Game mode, if it's Tekken Force or something that you feel like should have been there, going to be disappointed. But hey, I'm willing to pay for it if the story mode is as good as they said. I understand you have limited resources when you develop your game, so you got to put that somewhere. Guest characters, I'm happy for people who are excited. I'm not. I just don't like guest characters in fighting games. Just don't do it for me. I'd rather see either brand new characters that are going to stick with the franchise and add to it and help grow it, or old favorites redone. Like Kunimitsu from Tekken Tag 2. They made her awesome. I love the way they remade her. I love everything they did with that character. But you're not going to get anything like that. You're going to get a guest character who has some sort of constraints on them as far as lore and all the things that they can do. Regardless, I've rambled enough. All this to say, Tekken 7 post-launch content and Season Pass details have been revealed. Go back to the beginning of the video if you forgot what they were, or just read back here. You can also find this information pretty much all over the web at this point, and Namco's official Twitter and all that has released this. Anyway, this is Terenzu signing off. Thanks for checking me out.